A new national strike began in Colombia, called by various social organizations and workers' unions against the administration of President Iván Duque. As the U.S. death toll from COVID-19 surpassed 250,000 on Wednesday, an internal White House task force report warned of aggressive, unrelenting, broad community spread across the country, without evidence of improvement but rather further deterioration. The director of the Center for Strategic Studies and International Relations of Iran, Amir Mousavi, warned on Thursday about the danger of Donald Trump's last days in the presidency of the United States for the region. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm Gladys Quesada. A new national strike began in Colombia, called by various social organizations and workers' unions against the administration of President Iván Duque. According to the schedule provided by the National Strike Committee, various peaceful organizations and mobilizations also started throughout the territory, starting at 7 a.m. local time. With the country in recession for the first time in 2 decades, diverse sectors such as social groups, unions, indigenous people, students, women, Afro-descendants, campesino organizations and agricultural producers are mobilizing in rejection of the policies of President Iván Duque, considering that they promote violence, despise life and attempt against the dignity of the Colombians. The participants insist that their support for peace is transversal. Therefore, the call promotes peaceful mobilization. Likewise, the platform indicated that the medical sanitary protocols will be rigorously respected to avoid new infections during the demonstrations day. Colombia has been affected by climatic phenomena that have hard hit the country and that has left over 59,000 families affected and about 21,000 houses in need of repair so far. Hernán Tobar will give us all the details.
Iota hit Colombia strongly. The hurricane devastated Providence Island and caused severe damages to San Andres. At the same time, the phenomenon of El Niño is affecting with intense rains provinces such as Antioquia, Choco, Northern Santander, and La Guajira. Almost 300 municipalities in 26 provinces are affected.
These phenomena are consequences of the climate crisis that we're living. The environmental crisis causes many of these phenomena to take place more frequently and with more intensity. With environmental deterioration that affects the planet already, we are expanding deforestation. We build on protected areas such as riverbanks. We conduct large-scale mining, and forest plantation projects continue to be developed.
Continuous and heavy rainfall has led to 154 floods, 143 landslides, 56 strong storms, 32 sudden rises of the water levels, among other events, which have left 22 people dead, 37 more injured, as well as almost 60,000 families. Figures that may be inaccurate because only in the city of Cúcuta, province of Northern Santander, a gorge overflowing caused at least 6 dead and 8 missing people.
Approximately 65 families were affected by the winter wave flooding, a situation that occurred because of the rains, which had already been forecast. In the last winter wave, a report was filed to the mayor's office so that he could give an assessment of the situation, but unfortunately no information was ever received about the relocation of these people.
Social activists denounce that the victims are among the most vulnerable sectors of the population, including displaced people that suffer exclusion and marginalization from government policies.
Many towns do not have, let's say, there are no institutions that guarantee access to proper housing in safe places, and people are occupying places that are not prepared to live in. It is not their problem, but because of these, they are discriminated. They are not offered proper conditions, and they have to stay on the hillsides. They have to live practically in the river.
Environmentalists say that the government must be aware of the consequences of climate change and how domestic policies are contributing to the environmental damage. Fracking, extensive cattle ranching, and other activities must be re-evaluated. These changes must go hand in hand with respect of human rights.
We need to comprehensively integrate human rights into climate change management. The current law on climate change passed in 2018 has no provision for the protection of the people in vulnerable situations, nor does it recognize the link between climate change, justice, and human rights that the UN has acknowledged for many years.
Meanwhile, environmentalists say that this climatic phenomena could intermittently continue until April 2021, and the governments will have the obligations to make plans in order to reduce the consequences and risks for the populations.
Hernán Darío Tobar, TeleSUR, Bogotá, Colombia.
The National Electoral Council of Venezuela presented the biosecurity strategy for the December 6 parliamentary elections before the United Nations and other national and international organizations. The president of the National Electoral Council, Indira Alfonso, Foreign Minister Jorge Arreaza, and Health Deputy Minister Marisela Bermudez met with UN Coordinator Peter Graham and Pier Paolo Baladelli, representative of the Pan American Health Organization in Venezuela. The national authorities explained the steps of the automated voting process and the health protocols designed to prevent the spread of COVID-19 during voting. 14,000 candidates, most of them from the opposition, presented their candidacy for the upcoming elections, where more than 20 million Venezuelans will elect the authorities of Venezuela's legislative branch. And Salvador Sotelo is the father of one of the murdered young men in the protests experienced in Peru since November the 9th, when Congress removed Martín Vizcarra from office on charges of corruption and appointed Manuel Merino to take over the presidency.
The swearing in of the new president, hopefully, because they are new people, they work for the good of our country, and we are no longer in the streets with death and murder.
The political crisis that Peru has experienced in recent days is experiencing a truce between the appointment of Francisco Sagasti as the new president. Relatives of the murdered young men say that with the new president, things could go better.
I feel sorry that my son is leaving us, but at the same time, I also feel proud that everyone, all of Peru, has learned that Inti and Brian have started what it is, so that this ends up in democracy.
In Chile, Mario Rosas, the General Director of Chile's police force, better known as Carabineros, handed over his resignations following crackdown by police forces at the Carlos Macera residence run by the National Service for Underage Citizens in Talcahuano, where 2 minors were injured. Chile's President Sebastián Piñera made the announcement at La Moneda Palace, where Rosas was summoned in the presence of Interior Minister Rodrigo Delgado and Justice Minister Hernán Larraín. The president announced that Rosas' successor in the position will be General Ricardo Yáñez, who was the deputy director of the National Police. On Wednesday, police forces opened fire on a group of minors at the Carlos Macera residence, leaving 2 of them, aged 14 and 17, wounded in their legs. According to the representative of the children's ombudsman, Patricia Muñoz, the police's reaction was unjustified and due attack, adding that the minors are in hospital receiving medical care and their clinical condition is reserved. And we'll be right back after this very short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. As the U.S. death toll from COVID-19 surpassed 250,000 on Wednesday, an internal White House task force report warned of aggressive, unrelenting broad community spread across the country, without evidence of improvement but rather further deterioration. The report, which leaked widely to the media, also said, current mitigation efforts are inadequate and must be increased. Anthony Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases and a key member of the White House task force, has said Trump has not attended a task force meeting for 5 months. On Wednesday, President-elect Joe Biden was due to stage a virtual meeting with frontline healthcare workers. Without a concession from Donald Trump and consequent federal government support, Biden has named a COVID advisory board and made tackling the pandemic a key focus on plans for his first steps in power next January. Lothar Wieler, president of the Robert Koch Institute, said Thursday, while the level of COVID-19 infections in Germany is still too high, the new restrictions introduced at the beginning of the month gave cause for optimism.
With the high number of cases, it is possible that a lot of hospitals will reach their limits. It is possible that patients won't be able to be treated optimally everywhere, which is why our goal remains to bring the infection to a level which is manageable by the health authorities and the hospitals. We still don't see that the number of cases is going down, but I'm still optimistic that they will, because through the plateau we see that the measures are working. We always see that with a delay of about 2 weeks. So I am very optimistic that if we sit here next week the numbers will be down, but nobody can promise that. I am, however, optimistic that it will be like that.
According to health officials, Germany's partial coronavirus lockdown is having a positive effect, but the daily number of new coronavirus cases remains too high. The number of new infections has since plateaued, with more than 22,000 reported on Thursday. However, the number of COVID-19 patients in intensive care units has soared from just over 360 in early October to more than 3,500. According to the RKI, Germany registers nearly 856,000 COVID-19 cases and more than 13,300 deaths. The president of the European Central Bank, Christine Lagarde, called on Thursday to unblock the region's recovery fund to fight COVID-19. Lagarde noted that she expects the fund to be implemented and become viable without delay in order to allow recovery. The package's additional resources could make the fiscal policies more flexible, a key measure mostly in those euro areas countries with limited fiscal space, she also said. Lagarde noted that it is not up to the central bank to decide its permanence, but she called to consider that possibility. Lagarde described as an achievement the agreement to tackle the health crisis, which entails an assistance of 750 billion euros. French Labour Minister Elisabeth Borne on Thursday announced the implementation of a platform to help young people to find jobs. The One Young One Solution webpage will be operational on Thursday afternoon, and it's part of the initiative announced by the government in July to facilitate contacts between potential employers and job-seeking young people aged 16 to 30. So far, the platform has received more than 20,000 offers for that age group, and in addition to permanent jobs or temporary jobs, it includes internships and training at companies. The objective is to gather 100,000 job offers rapidly, many of which are mainly aimed at students because they demand little or no labor experience, the Employment Service also briefed. On Thursday, Chinese President Xi Jinping said during the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum to seek openness in trade, warning against protectionism. The APEC Forum is held online this year because of the coronavirus pandemic. It brings together 21 Pacific Rim countries, including the world's 2 biggest economy, accounting for about 60% of global GDP.
Openness enables a country to move forward, while seclusion holds it back. In today's world, where economic globalization has become an irreversible trend, no country can develop itself by keeping its doors closed. We will not reverse course or run against historical trend. by decoupling or forming a small circle to keep others out. We welcome cooperation with every other region, country or company that wants to do so.
And we have more stories coming up after this final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. The director of the Center of Strategic Studies and International Relations of Iran, Amir Mousavi, warned on Thursday about the danger of Donald Trump's last days in the presidency of the United States. In statements to Al Mayadeen, Mousavi said that the ongoing president is preparing assassinations of Islamic resistant leaders and conspiracies to sparkle sedition in Lebanon and Iraq. In Palestine, Yemen and Syria, Trump has projects that are similar to those that killed Iranian General Qasem Soleimani and the deputy commander. There are reports about the possibility of cyber attacks against nuclear facilities, gas plants, oil refineries, power plants, or the subway in Iran, he also said, referring to an article in the New York Times about Trump's intention to attack nuclear facilities in the Islamic Republic. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees issued an alert as mission is being overwhelmed by the dimensions of the situation. The murder of at least 500 civilians in 3 different massacres in the Tigray caused the exodus of Ethiopians to Sudan. At least 36,000 people have crossed the border into Sudan wearing only the clothes on their backs. According to the UNHCR records, 4,000 people cross the border every day. The fighting between the Tigray Liberation Front and the Ethiopian Federal Army difficults the delivery of humanitarian aid and keeps almost the entire north of the country isolated. The United Nations warns that the looming humanitarian crisis could be irreversible.
We ran away because the army came. We do not know who they are. They started beating us with weapons, knives, crutches, anything they could carry in their hands. We escaped and the women did the same, but they did not know where their children were. We left everything behind. We did not even take our clothes. And all of this because Abiy Ahmed attacked us for no reason. They shot many people. I saw with my own eyes more than 50 or 60 people being shot. I escaped, but the killing continued. After one day, I arrived to Hamdayet and stayed there for 2 days, and then we were transferred to the camp in Rakuba.
Ethiopia's army chief accused Thursday WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, the country's highest profile Tigrayan abroad, of lobbying in favor of the breakaway region and helping them get weapons.
Now that his members, those who have a similar kind of thinking, what do you expect from him? We don't expect he will side with the Ethiopian people and condemn them. So, he has left no stone unturned to help them. Will he be successful or not? That's another issue. He has worked in neighboring countries to condemn the war. He has worked for them to get weapons.
With 83 new cases in the last 24 hours, the number of COVID-19 contagions in Syria has reached 6,919, the Ministry of Health informed on Thursday. Those 83 cases represent the highest daily number reported in the last 4 weeks, so health authorities urge to respect and maintain prevention measures. Of that figure, some 2,868 patients recovered from the disease, and 4 people died in a day. The death toll rose to 358 since the pandemic broke out in this country on March 22nd. Syria maintains its border closed and restrictive measures at workplaces, services in general, educational centers at all levels, and religious institutions. Saudi Arabia announced Thursday that it will be investing $20 billion in artificial intelligence projects by 2030 as the oil-rich country seeks to diversify its economy amid slumping crude prices.
$20 million in artificial intelligence from now until 2030. There will be a share for foreign investments and a share for local investments. We aspire to have artificial intelligence as a component of an alternative economy through startups and innovation companies. We aim to establish more than 300 startup companies in artificial intelligence from now up to 2030.
The Nigerian Minister of Information and Culture insists that soldiers did not shoot at protesters who gathered at the Lekki toll gate on 20 October. This comes after CNN released an investigative report on the attack, stating that the Nigerian military forces fired directly at the peaceful demonstrators, allegedly killing many of them.
Insist that the military did not shoot at protesters at Lekki toll gate. They fired blank ammunition in the air. Again, anyone who knows anyone who was killed at the Lekki toll gate should head straight to the judicial panel with conclusive evidence of such. Like everyone else, I watched the CNN report yesterday. I must tell you that it reinforces the disinformation that is going around, and it is blatantly irresponsible and a poor piece of journalistic work by a reputable international news organization. Before deployment, the soldiers were briefed on the rules of engagement, which they adhered to also. 3. Soldiers at the Lekki toll gate fired blank ammunition into the air.
And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also, if you feel so inclined, follow us on social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, my name is Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.